The sprint race, it was difficult to get a read, but it looked like we were strong. It was just the DRS train that we couldn't break. Now, Sunday, we definitely struggled. There was a bit more understeer in the car, a little bit more bouncing.
Hello and welcome back to another Akkodis Race Debrief. My name's Jodie and joining us today we've got Shov to answer your questions from the Qatar Grand Prix. Shov, let's take a look. It's been a long season so far. With one race left to go, how are all the team feeling?
Well, it's certainly been a pretty long, pretty tough season. We haven't achieved what we set out to do, but we hope that we can finish strongly. And whilst we didn't achieve our objectives, the recent pace has been pretty strong. It's also been good to get 4 wins this year. As I said, not what we're here for, but better than nothing.
Taking a look at George on race day and tyre strategy, what made us go on to that hard tyre for George rather than the medium?
Well, we're going round the loop on this because looking at the tyre performance post-race, there were some that looked strong on the hard, but on balance, the medium was the better tyre. Now, because we'd elected to keep 2 hard tyres, we'd used the medium in FP1. We only had 1 set remaining. That was a used tyre. Now, at the point we took the decision, we thought going on the hard would be preferable. However, George was wanting the medium. That was what he thought we were going to fit to his car. And on reflection, we should have taken the medium because it would have had better warm-up and slightly better pace. But as I said, we'll analyse that and make sure we don't do that again.
And I suppose at that time we didn't know there would be such stopping and starting with the safety car as well.
That's another reason that you would want the medium, but it's going to be better on warm-up. It's a softer rubber, but regardless of that, it would have had better pace.
Also looking then at Lewis, he picked up damage with having a puncture. Do we know if that was caused by the debris that was on the track or by riding the curbs too much?
Well, we've obviously got the video data. We can see exactly when that mirror got smashed, when it got broken into a lot of pieces. We've also got the on-car data, and we're measuring the pressure in the tyres live. Now, surprisingly, we can see Lewis start to lose pressure prior to the mirror being hit by Valtteri. So from that, we would say it's unlikely that it was a debris puncture. That was certainly what we thought at the time because the two appeared to be almost simultaneous. It doesn't mean that he didn't pick up some debris elsewhere, but we need to wait for Pirelli to do their analysis and their investigations. They'll do a lot of detailed checks on all the tyres, trying to understand if there's any deterioration. There's a huge amount of load goes through the front left round Qatar. There were also bits of the tyre that were wearing quite heavily, and again that's linked to the fact that you've got these super fast corners that are flat out at nearly 300 kilometres an hour. So once we get that analysis, we'll understand a bit more.
The results may not have been what we wanted, but from a car performance aspect, what were our learnings from the weekend in Qatar?
Well, the car was working well around that circuit. You could see that on single lap, very, very strong performance. And we were good through the corner speed range. So the high speed was good. The slower corners were good. There are a few issues that we need to pick up on. There was a little bit of bouncing in those really fast corners. So that's something that we need to address. But right now, the whole focus is really on 2025 and beyond. So it's good that you get a range of different circuits, quite different tracks, some with very low speed like Vegas, and a range of conditions as well, sort of hot races, cold races, wet races. That's all very useful looking at next year because we're now having to find answers to all of those performance problems because we're determined to have a strong start to 2025.
And then is there a reason why the performance may have differed from, say, qualifying sprint race into the race itself?
Well, the performance looked pretty consistent through Friday, through sprint quali. George was almost on pole on the Friday. He then did a very, very strong lap on the Saturday. The sprint race, it was difficult to get a read, but it looked like we were strong. It was just the DRS train that we couldn't break. Now, Sunday, we definitely struggled. There was a bit more understeer in the car, a little bit more bouncing, and the track gained a lot of grip. Now, it's quite unusual that Qatar just kept getting quicker and quicker right through the weekend. By Sunday, it was a very, very grippy circuit, and there were some corners where others were finding time compared to the race on Saturday, where we weren't able to go any quicker. So one of the things we need to understand is in those corners, why were we capped on the performance? Why couldn't we carry more speed? That analysis is going on right now, and I'm sure that we'll make some good progress there.
So next question, why was Lewis's car underbalanced? Was this a driver request from the setup or a team setup?
So underbalance means too much understeer. When they say overbalance, that means they've got too much oversteer. Now, why was that the case? Well, the balance that we had in the sprint race on Saturday was good. And if you took George's car, he didn't make a lot of changes between the end of the sprint race and qualifying, because you come out of Parc Fermé, you go back into it. For qualifying, you have this opportunity to work on the setup. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the track was getting grippier and grippier, and that normally means you get more understeer in the car. That's what you would generally get. Now, the engineers and the drivers are looking at the different runs they've done over the weekend. They're tracking how much aero balance we're carrying, what mechanical balance we've got, and they will compensate for that increased grip, normally by putting a bit more front wing in. For instance, both did that, but we do need to understand why we still ended up with too much understeer. And then during the race, we were adding more and more front wing, and it was proving quite hard to dial that out. So maybe the conclusion will be that we should have shifted the setup more, but it's quite difficult to predict exactly where the grip is going to land. But going back to your original question, whose decision is it? Well, the engineers, the drivers, they all work closely together to arrive at that. That's just the nature of their relationship.
We're coming into the last race of the season, and it will be the last race with Lewis Hamilton. Are there any celebrations planned?
There will be. Right now, though, the engineering group, we're putting all our effort into making sure we can finish with a strong result, because of all the things that we could do to celebrate Lewis's time with the team, a strong finish is probably the one that he would be most grateful to receive. So that's where our effort is. However, there are a lot of special things planned. Do keep an eye on all of our social channels, because those will become apparent through the weekend. We've also got 150 lucky fans who get to put their name on the car, on Lewis's car, for that final race. But it's been an incredible time with Lewis, an incredible 12 years, hugely successful. There's an awful lot to look back at and celebrate, and we will miss him.